Hello, and welcome to another installment of Practical Farms, where we take a look at different farms and make them more practical depending on where we are in each phase of the game, whether it's early game, mid game, or late game, so that they're more cost effective and suit our needs. Today we're going to be taking a look at a second version of a general mob farm. Now if you saw our first version of the mob farm, you know that they can be pretty good for collecting things like gunpowder and bones. And while our first version is pretty simple to make with basic materials, this version takes advantage of a special mechanic involving scaffolding. Now the way it works is that basically mobs can spawn inside a block that has scaffolding as long as all other spawning requirements are met. And then we can put water flowing across the top of the scaffolding, which will then push the mobs where we want them to go, specifically into a kill chamber. In this way, we don't have to wait for the mob to randomly walk, accidentally fall into the kill chamber, and then give us the loot. We can push them as quickly as we can, which can dramatically increase the output of our mob farm. So, let's get started, and I'll show you exactly how to make one, step by step. Now, before we begin building our mob farm, you need to know what your simulation distance is. This will determine the spawning radius around the player that mobs will spawn. If you're playing on a simulation distance 4, which is the case for most realms and servers, the spawning radius around the player is between 24 and 44 blocks. That means that 24 blocks out to 44 blocks out from the player in every direction, including up and down, in a sphere-shaped area around the player, can spawn mobs if there's a solid block under their feet. If you're playing on simulation distance 6 or higher, that spawning radius is between 24 and 128 blocks. All this means is that you will need to spawn proof all the area around the player in that radius to make sure that mobs only spawn where you want them to. The easiest way to do this is to build it up high in the sky beyond the limit of the spawn radius. So if you're on simulation distance 4, you need to do like I did and come up a total of 45 blocks to guarantee that no mobs spawn below you. Or if you're on simulation distance 6, make that 128 blocks above the ground level. Now the easiest place to do this is above an ocean because everything is completely flat, but if you're building this in an area that is flat all the way around, that works too, whichever way you like. With that being said, let's go ahead and start looking at the building of this farm. Now the beginning of all good farms begin with their collection system because you need to be able to store all the loot that you're going to be collecting. And general purpose mob farms collect a lot of loot. So here at the top we have a double chest, which is going to be the primary collecting point for our farm. Below it I have 2 hoppers pointing each into a double chest, and each of those double chests have 2 hoppers out underneath them, each pointing into a double chest as well. If you run this farm for just an hour, you will fill nearly every single one of these chests up, so I recommend having something like this, or even something bigger if you feel you might need it. Then what we do is come behind here, and we're going to place a hopper into the back of this chest, and we're going to build up around it the floor for our killing chamber. Once you have those 4 blocks there, go ahead and surround them as well, to where we have a total of a 4x4 square as the center of our drop chute and killing chamber. And you'll notice I put this little square here to let me know what the footprint was, just so I would be able to visually remember where I'm placing these. So then we come here and come up on top, and then we'll need to put a hopper with minecart right here on top of this hopper. So go ahead and place some rails here, here, and here. Put solid blocks in these places here, and then fill in the rest of the area around these blocks. This is going to be the floor of the Trident killer. Now if you don't want to use an automatic killing system using a Trident killer, you can do this manually. I recommend using a looting 3 sword. Of course, you'll be sitting here for a while killing lots of mobs. I personally recommend using a Trident killer. Go ahead and place a minecart with hopper, destroy the rail right below it, and then go ahead and place a stair upside down in front of it to keep it in place, and then complete the wall with solid blocks on either side. Then we're going to come up and fill in the rest of this platform so that it has a solid block above the minecart with hopper, and then put in our Trident killer. Start by putting in a pinwheel pattern of the pistons like this. Then come in with solid blocks in the corners like this. We're going to use an impaling trident, so we're going to waterlog that stair right there. So there we go. Then place a slab here to allow the experience orbs to come out to the person where they're AFKing. And then we need to put in our redstone components. Now I usually like to use the dropper version of this, but this mob farm is going to be dropping mobs so fast, including spiders, at such a rate that it's going to clog up the system. So we need this to move actually a little slower. So I recommend using the redstone dust version of this, where basically you put a piece of redstone dust in the corner. You then have an observer facing into it, like this. Place a solid block on top, and then just repeat the pattern on all the way around. With all these in place, you then will probably want to put an extra round layer of blocks all the way around, just to be, in case the spiders come through, they might glitch through the wall. You're better off putting an extra layer around. Now if you don't put this layer of bricks around, you will need to put a button or some other block on the back of this piston and this piston, but since we're going to be putting blocks around it, we don't need to worry about that. Otherwise your water will come out and spill all over the area. But since we're having blocks put around there, it will prevent that from happening. Then come and put another layer around like this. And then put a lever on this block here, so when we turn it off and then on, we see that the Trident killer is operational. Let's go ahead and add our water by water logging that stair, this piston, and that piston. The next thing you need to do is determine where your AFK spot is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and place a solid block right here and here for me to use as my AFK spot. Now I'll indicate where this is going to be by using a carpet, but you can use whatever you want to mark your location so you don't forget where you're going to stand when you run this farm. Then come and place a way for us to climb up to it. And I like to use ladder coming up to here. And then just a few extra blocks for safety. Now that we have our kill chamber ready, the next thing to do is go up 22 blocks from your AFK spot. And since we've already added 2 blocks, all we need to do is go up 20 more. Now, of course, when you do this, make sure you have a way to get back down. I personally prefer to use ladders going up the side of the drop chute, but if you have another way that you prefer, that's perfectly fine as well. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll rejoin you when that's done. So if you're going to be doing it along with me, go ahead and pause, and we'll get back together when that's all done. Alright, so our drop chute is in place, and we're a total of 22 blocks above our AFK spot. So the next thing to do is put in a trough to funnel all the mobs into the kill chamber. So to do that, we're going to start with putting in some solid blocks, starting here and going out 8 in this direction, and then again 8 in that direction. So let's go out 8, counting this as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then let's go one more and come up 1 step, and then we'll go an additional 7, counting this one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then go one more, and this is going to be where our wall is at the end of this chamber. So put a 2-high wall there, and then come ahead and let's build this out coming this way as well. Now I'm going to leave a hole here for us to get out once this build is done. If you have a different way of getting down from the platform, that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to use this so I can get down safely. Then we need to put a wall on both sides of this. So to do that, just come and put in a wall all the way across from here. And then come across the bottom as well, and then all the way across the top. Do it on the other side the same way. And now that we have that side complete, we need to do it on the other side. So go ahead and put that in, and we'll get back together in just a second. Alright, so we have our trough put in on both sides. So the next thing we need to do is to add our water to the trough and put in some buttons. So the first thing we need to do is come to each end and place in some water here and here. And then come to the other side and do the same thing. You'll notice the water doesn't go down that hole where the ladder is. The ladder prevents the water from going down, and that's why we're going to be able to use it to escape once we're done building the rest of this farm. You'll notice also that because we stair-step the trough up 1 block halfway down the length of the trough, we're able to just have a single stream of water carry the mobs all the way from one end to the drop chute in the middle. Now, if you don't have 4 water buckets to put in these water sources, what you can do is just build a little temporary spot off to the side that you can use as an infinite water source and refill your buckets as needed from there. Now that we have those in place, we need to put in our buttons. And the first thing we want to do is to come right here into the middle and put a button on each side of the drop chute. That way, when the mobs get pushed in by the water, they think they still have a solid block to go before they fall, and they won't try and fight going up against stream, and so they just fall in a little bit quicker. Then come in and put in some buttons going all the way from one side to the other. We're doing this for the same reason as we put those buttons on the drop chute, so that when the spawning platform is put off on either side, when the mobs get pushed towards the trough, they don't fight it and they just fall straight in. Once you have all these in, we'll come back together and put in the spawning platforms for each layer of the farm. Alright, so our buttons are all in place. Now we need to build the spawn platforms. And what we're going to do is come out to where there's a floor of 8 blocks. So we're going to go out 8 plus 1 more for the wall. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9th one is the wall. And then just come across and do that all the way down. So what I'm going to do is come back over here and do the same thing so that it's easier just to connect the 2 sides together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then go ahead and make this wall 2 high on both sides. Let's go ahead and put that in, and then we'll come back and finish off this layer. Okay, so our first layer of the spawning platform is done, and just as a point of reference, you'll know that you made it the right size, is the total width from that end to where I'm standing is 20 blocks, including the wall, and then from this wall to that wall is a total of 34 blocks, including the wall. Alright, so now that we have this in place, what we want to do is put in scaffolding. So basically just come and put scaffolding all the way across the entire surface of both platforms. Once you have that in place, we'll come back and we'll take the next step. Now that the scaffolding is in place, we need to place water sources above each one of these pieces of scaffolding, and then the water will just flow right across the top and push any mobs that spawn inside the scaffolding into the trough down below. However, I find that the fighting against the stream of the water is kind of difficult, so what I like to do, especially in survival mode, is come in and put the ceiling of this layer, which becomes the floor of the next, and then leave a gap here at the end so that you can just kind of come in and place the water against that brick right there. So let's go ahead and put in the floor first right here for the next layer, and just come all the way across, and then come back once we've got that in place. Alright, so we have the ceiling of the first layer, which is the floor of the second layer, in place. So now we just come over to the side here and place a water source right here and here, and just every single block. Now normally you could skip every other and it would fill in the gap for you, but because it's one layer above on top of the scaffolding, it doesn't work that way. You notice once I added that, it changed the direction of the water flow. So you need to put a water source on every single block for this. If you don't have infinite water with you, you might want to build a temporary source of one off the side of the farm so that you can get to it very easily and not have to keep running back down to the bottom of the farm to get more water. Alright, so our last water source is in, so then we just need to come in and finish off this. And the way to do it is just come and fill in the gap above the water, and then do the same thing on the other side. And that's one layer of the farm complete. So all you have to do is to add in as many layers as you want. I recommend putting in at least 3 layers for this farm so that it makes it worth your time, but you can go as high as 7. So all you have to do is come in, put the buttons along the edge of this trough right here, and then repeat the process up to 6 more times. So go ahead and do that, and we can get back together once we're all done. See you in a minute. Alright, I have 7 layers put in, so now we need to put in our roof. Now I recommend using tinted glass for the roof, as it is the best way to guarantee a light level of 0 in your farm no matter what's going on. But if you don't have access to amethyst when you're building this farm, you can always go ahead and use leaf blocks. The only thing is you need to make sure is you go up an additional 6 blocks high above where we are at this point, and then add a layer of blocks above that of leaves all the way across, as this will then block all skylight and mob spawn in a light level of 7 if it's skylight. It needs to have 0 if it's going to be an artificial light such as torches, but I prefer to use tinted glass because it just makes it a little bit cleaner and easier. So let's go ahead and add a layer of blocks around the outside edge, and then come in and put in our tinted glass. Alright, so our roof is in place, and now it's time to make our way down. So I'm just going to come over here, and let's break out some of the wall blocks so that we can then turn around and put them back in place. We'll need to kind of come in here so we can come into the scaffolding and still fill in the blocks. You'll have to fight the current a little bit. Well, just like that. And then when you go down, you land in this trough and you'll be fine. So then make sure that you're lined up with your escape hatch right here, and just go down with it. And there you go. If you crouch once you start going down, you can then stop here and break the stairway and replace it with the brick. Whoop. And there we go. Our mob farm is all done. All you have to do now is throw in a trident if you haven't already, and then hold your looting sword and you'll be good to go. So to put in the trident, all you have to do is break into your drop chamber like this above the observers, and then I recommend throwing 2 tridents with impaling 5 on them so you get maximum kill rates for this, and then fill in the hole that you made. Then while holding your looting 3 sword, turn on the trident killer and wait for mobs to spawn and collect all their loot. So I'll let that run for an hour. We'll do some testing and see what kind of loot we get from this farm. I'll be back with you as soon as the testing's done. Alright, our testing is done, and I run the farm for an hour, and the first thing you'll notice is I have 73 levels. I started at 0, so this is a reasonably good source of XP that you can get from this farm. But let's take a look at the loot, because that's what we're really interested in. So if we come down here, we can take a look and see that we have tons of junk filling these chests, and I went ahead and sorted it and put all the good stuff up here. And you'll see we have 12 and a half, nearly 12 and a half stacks of gunpowder. That's pretty good for a mob farm. Also have about 10 stacks of bones, tons of string and spider eyes as well. And if we come over into our rotten flesh and other somewhat useful items, you can see we have more rotten flesh than we'll ever need. Nearly 28 stacks of it. Trading with the cleric villagers will never run out of rotten flesh there. Now these results are pretty typical. I've run it for long periods of time in a row, also shorter periods multiple times, and I tended to find that you would get somewhere between 11 and 13 stacks of gunpowder pretty consistently, and the same thing with the bones. Also, if you built only 3 layers of this farm, you could reasonably expect to get about 6 stacks of gunpowder and about the same amount of bones, which for the minimal amount of effort it takes to build 3 layers, that's pretty good too. So, this is a pretty successful mob farm. So if you have access to bamboo and can make scaffolding, I highly recommend this version of the mob farm, as it is an excellent source. Gunpowder and bones for bone meal. But I think that's where we're going to end this tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed it and that it helps you out in your world. If you do use this farm, I'd greatly appreciate it if you leave a comment down below letting us know how it worked out for you. But that's it for now. I hope to see you again in the next one. But until then, this is Texas BK. Be good to each other. Bye!